Dear audience in the room, dear audience behind the screen, we are starting our panel discussion on the role of universities in social resilience and transformational change in times of ongoing uncertainty. Many words, but let's try to unpack them in 1 hour with so many fantastic speakers and distinguished panel. So, not to talk a lot from my side, I will start by giving the word to His Excellency Ambassador of Ukraine, and maybe set the scenery of the situation in Ukraine now from the perspective of universities and education. How do you see it? Please, 5 minutes, not more.
Yeah, do you hear me? Okay, fine. So, first of all, it's a afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be here and starting this day with educational sector, which is very important for generally for human capital. I will start from the point of view that for last days we see over Ukraine a huge massive attack of rockets trying to hit overall our system. They are trying to destroy infrastructure, mainly military, but in practice they hit actually educational and hospitals, buildings, unfortunately. That is the point which we have to start with, is that since the beginning of war, we have then more than 3,250 educational institutions which were hit by and damaged by this war. 259 we've lost, so they completely destroyed. And it's also about buildings. But if you think about the idea of how one building is surrounded by people, by those who spend their time to create educational programs, by those who apply for studies there, you just can imagine how many lives it destroyed. So imagine that 260 you just got destroyed and people had to move somewhere. That's what we experienced from 2014. Plenty of Ukrainian universities had to actually relocate from eastern part of Ukraine and to western and central part of Ukraine. And since the beginning of this massive part of war, or from last February, more than 3,200 were damaged again, and people were afraid. They had to leave their hometowns and their beloved universities and institutions, and that is why what we have in practice, we are losing human capital, unfortunately. But the positive one is that thanks to Latvia and thanks to our friends across Europe, we got Ukrainians who found themselves in European universities, including Valmiera. It's fantastic point that we have these opportunities for Ukrainian both scholars and both students to have the opportunity to continue this education. During the Soviet Union time, when it was about deportation, genocide, because today we commemorate Crimean Tatar Genocide Day, key point was to, first of all, to get rid of intellectual people. So those who can give some knowledge, experience, culture for the future generation and pass the history. So right now we have to keep this. Not only soldiers dying, but people who could educate a lot future generations. So situation on the ground is that we stood up and we started to restore, to recover our buildings. I do hope that with the support of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, this year we will start some support to Chernihiv region, and we will get some buildings recovered. But what is needed actually is further development. That students come back, there is a peaceful time, and we can manage actually a university exchange. Was that what would be the best preference for all of us? And I do believe by educating and giving a signal to students and scholars, it's the best way what we can do, and also provide temporary solution for any of such situations. I will stop here with my 5 minutes, and then we will probably be ready to continue on the topics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and let us express really our appreciation of your own personal resilience. Of course, you are here as representatives of universities, but we really admire your resilience in the situation, and we would like to unpack it a bit also from your perspective. So, Anastasia, Mr. Ambassador already mentioned Chernihiv region, and you are representing the University of Chernihiv Polytechnic National University. So what is your experience? How was it to live through this first crisis and now actually looking also in the future, right?
Thank you for the question. Good afternoon, everyone. And yeah, I'm a representative of Chernihiv Polytechnic National University. And when I hear my university's name, the first thing that comes to my mind is really resilience. Because when the war started, after 2 months, we renewed our educational process, but it was unfortunately online. All the administrative staff and all the equipment were moved to the safer regions, to the western of Ukraine, and we managed it greatly, and I believe it is a great achievement that we continued the studying process, and it was an opportunity for students to go on, to be a little bit distracted of the war actions and so on. Yeah. That's it. And if you have any questions to me, I'll answer.
Maybe you already mentioned that actually everybody was moved away, but does it have any impact on your, let's say, learning process? Maybe you learned something new because, of course, our experience is not comparative. But what we saw, for example, in COVID situation was that actually this crisis situation taught us how we can change things and do it in different way. Maybe you also had some learning points.
Actually, the COVID-19 was like a preparatory stage for us, and that time we learned a lot. We have e-learning system Moodle where we can this is how we can exchange knowledge and so on. And of course, we have initiated a lot of projects since that time. And before February 2022, we were active participants of the project called Norway-Ukraine. It is aimed at retraining and social adaptation of military officers and their family members and so on. And we participated in this project for 7 years, and we provided courses for military officials and their family members in business English, in web technologies, and so on. So this is one of the projects. And now what is going on in Chernihiv region, it's like a huge project, regional project called Postup. In English, I may call it Progress. It is aimed at providing shelter to internally displaced people, and also on trainings how to counteract human trafficking, human exploitation. We cooperate with, this project is implemented with support of the US aid, Global Communities Ukraine, and our local NGO, Chernihiv European, where we have a lot of our lecturers who are members of this NGO. So our university is actually actively engaged in all these social solutions and everything that we can right now offer people, because we have a lot of internally displaced people who moved from the very, very northern points of our region closer to Chernihiv, to the capital of region, so to say.
Thank you. So this is very impressive how about this internal displacement, right? So you have some people who have left, some people who have came, and then you have actually new agenda, right, about these military issues and everything where you are contributing to this crisis situation. Maybe Irina, now you are listening what Anastasia is saying. How do you feel? Was it the same situation in your region in Cherkasy, or you faced some kind of different challenges and reactions?
Hello, everyone, dear colleagues, dear partners, and dear friends. We are delighted to become part of your big European family. If you ask us if we are resilient, I suppose we are, because we made this 2-day-long trip to Latvia, and so we changed 3 types of transport, but we are here finally, and thank you for your invitation, and thank you for your support. Sometimes I might say that we do not even recognize how resilient we are, because this is our life, and we have to be flexible, and I would even say we have to be agile for a long-term future and for a long-term perspective. So it is really so that 1 year ago our life turned upside down, and during the first months we really survived, and only then we started thinking about resilience and about transformation. But now at this point, looking back, I can say that we really are resilient because we continue teaching, we continue our academic process, and one of our greatest achievements was to start our offline academic process. So because we understood that students needed socialization, they needed to maintain, with our help, this emotional stability, because they are afraid of war, and our task as academic staff was to show them that it is natural to be afraid of it. Just be strong enough to adapt to the situation. It gave us a big push to develop a lot of volunteering projects because here we are from the central part of Ukraine and it is a bit safer, but just a bit. Today at night, the missile attack lasted from midnight up to 6 o'clock in the morning. Well, though it is safe, but our students and we hear explosions. But we understand that we need to help those who are in a greater need than we are. And together with our governmental institutions, together with our stakeholders, we started a lot of volunteering activities. So if to specify it with examples, I can say that these volunteering activities include, for example, cooperation with cyber police. We have a lot of IT students who joined this so-called IT army to detect propaganda and fake news. And I would like to say that this project is pretty effective and it is very successful. One of our volunteering projects was to help, you understand that, so all the government financing is focused on military affairs rather than on social side. And a lot of groups of people who used to have this financial support from government, now they are deprived of it. And we started also together with our local community. One of the projects is aimed for children who suffer from tuberculosis and AIDS. And the other project is also related to the helper to students' parents and employees' relatives who are at the front. So also donating and helping them with all the necessary stuff. Well, I understand that we will not have enough time to cover all the issues. Probably you have some specific questions. I will be happy to answer them.
Sure, we will come also to that, but thank you for this another perspective about giving this emotional support, right? And also playing as a community leader, as a change leader. And Natalia, let's move to another region and your experience. So do you have something to add up or strengthen some
Thank
points?
you. So actually it is the same region with Irina. We are both from Cherkasy region and we are lucky not to be on the front line. We are at the rear. But I'd like to start my speech actually with the words of gratitude to all European countries and to everyone who supports Ukraine in this tragic situation. And thank you very much for the administrative staff for raising such important issues with this event, because it is really important to discuss, to highlight some aspects. As to my university, actually, like being an educational center, we have always paid much attention to promoting social, cultural, and psychological welfare of our community. And with the beginning of war, this focus was kind of highlighted and enhanced. Actually, the university was aimed to give a helping hand to everyone who needed, and our activities were concentrated on three main important aspects. The first aspect, what can we do for the army and those who are in need? The second aspect, how can we ensure the safety of our students and staff? And the third one, how can we give a high-quality educational process and research in such uncertain situation. So as to the first aspect, from the first days of the war, we organized a center for assistance to the army and territorial defense. The teachers from the psychological department of our university organized a psychological helping center for those who needed. Then university was trying to help those students and staff members who joined the armed forces, and that's why we made a practice of organizing different charity events and donations in order to supply our students and staff with some military needs, what they asked us for. And we were pretty successful in all this stuff because we managed to collect 1,500,000 hryvnias to support our staff and students. And these, the list of these examples can be continued because everyone participates from the starting from administrative staff up to the students. I could give you just one more example when we were addressed by a public organization from Cherkasy. The name of this organization, We Are Here, and before the beginning of the war, they were helping disabled children. With the start of the war, they were focusing on helping children from internationally displaced families. And once they just addressed our department, the Department of Foreign Languages, and asked us if our students could give those children some free, maybe speaking club activities or English lessons. And I was so happy that my students of the second course, who were not so experienced at that moment, they are just like future teachers, but they immediately agreed and they joined that organization and were helping kids. So, and as to the second aspect, we were not ready for that war because life is going in such a way that different conflicts and disasters happened, but it is not possible to be ready for everything. And what we had to struggle with is to renew our shelter and to equip it with everything possible in order to staff an offline process. And the same with Irina, that was a great achievement because we managed to start this offline process, and it's just beneficial for our students and staff, I think.
Thank you. And now I'm asking Agnes. We heard these very tragic experiences where our Ukrainian colleagues were going through and trying to reinvent how they work. How Latvian universities and Latvian educational establishments can actually support our Ukrainian colleagues in this crisis situation? Let's start with that part.
Thank you, Inese, for this question. I will start just very few words about Vidzeme University of Applied Sciences and the support that we are providing here, and then we'll speak a bit more generally about it. And first of all, we have had contacts with Ukrainian universities already for many years. We had very active partnership with institutions in different regions in many areas, but after this full-scale war broke last year, then we intensified, of course, our effort, and we established a special program, special support program that contained free study places, free accommodation to prospective students, those who had they come with this disrupted education situation and wanted to continue and probably graduate, and also students who wanted to start their studies, and also places for researchers. We have currently several working here, both with Maria Skłodowska-Curie funding and other funding, and then of course when this problem, the challenge with refugees started as well last year. We freed many places in our students' hostel where we hosted people for several months as well. So we integrated in this general support program that was coordinated through the municipality. And I think we have to continue this work. It doesn't matter how long it's gonna be needed. We have to continue looking for new and maybe more bigger scale support opportunities where we can provide both these education opportunities, research opportunities, possibility to stay here in Valmiera, because maybe it's very trivial to me, but I got one letter just a few months ago when one of the university representatives, she wrote very honestly that we want to go somewhere where we can at least for a few days feel safe. So it's just kind of give us few days to unwind. That's I think very important. So it's definitely there is need for shorter mobilities, for some summer school initiatives more, and through Erasmus program, through other programs as well. And if we speak a bit more generally about what universities can do, we have audiences and we are listened to. That's what we have to remember. All the universities, we have large groups of people we can reach easily through our study process, through these communities where we are involved in. So it means that we have to keep the discussion alive all the time. So this is our duty, and also this is in our hands. We can do it so that we can help not to forget what is going on, and we can help not to normalize something that is not normal. And we definitely can also educate. So what is going on there? Maybe it's not that big problem in Baltic countries, because we have this history and we still remember and what we have experienced as well, and what evil is our neighbor and so on. But for the old Europe, I would say that it's very important that I still, last week I was in a conference, and then there was one guy with a very cheesy smile saying that, oh, this was so great, we had one event and there was a Russian girl and a Ukrainian girl sitting next to each other. No, this is not normal. You may not initiate anything like this. You have to say war is war, and there is a party that is attacking and the one that's defending itself. There is no like, let's make them friends somehow. So this is something that we have to fight. Media literacy as well. So a fight against the propaganda. So many universities have these communication departments, now have study programs, have research projects where we can integrate activities, do fact-checking, debunking disinformation, educate people, educate our students, educate different other audiences. We can push also legislators to keep funding, to keep the financing, refer again and again and again. So the funding is now going to end for Latvia. Many programs will end in December. So we must start developing something for the future. And as well, so what we can do, and we know we have very recent experience for joining European Union, and it means that we can also help both the state public sector and also private sector in Ukraine to prepare for these processes of entering European market and European Union as such. And yeah, and as well we have this very natural link with NGO sector, with this non-governmental sector, and I think Inese and also as she's today as the moderator, but we have had so many initiatives and projects and plans for future. We can work together, universities and NGOs to continue this support. So basically, yeah, these are my points. Yeah, thank you.
Very long list with activities, and I feel Alice is one who is pushed, right? As Agnes said, we are pushing for funding. So what is the funding opportunities for this big menu? Probably everybody is asking you, but what's your answer?
Thank you very much, Inese. Thank you for inviting me for this very interesting event. And let me appreciate from the beginning your work, our Ukrainian colleagues, in fostering resilience in your communities. It's very good to have you here. As you mentioned, mentioned and colleagues mentioned, to have a bit of relief as well, not only a study tour or a working session. I think it's very important for everyone, every human being, to be in a safe place, in nice springtime, in a safe place, as I said. So I'm coming from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we are keeping the wallet of development cooperation, public funding, but it's of course not the only one what is dedicated to Ukraine. As you may know, Latvia's support for Ukraine during last year till now has so far already exceeded 1% of GDP, reaching more than 500 million euros, and be sure support will continue. And I would like to be here express as well our appreciation from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and from the government side to the civil society of Latvia, to Latvian NGOs, to all non-governmental partners who really joined forces together from the day one of war to help Ukraine, being it money, being it arms, being whatever, humanitarian assistance. And Inese as well was and is still one of the central person in this process, so thank you very much for that. Then, of course, Ukraine will remain Latvia's priority in development cooperation, covering areas from urgent relief provision, strengthening the social resilience in Ukraine, to fostering Ukraine's reform process, as you mentioned, and European integration. Funding for development cooperation is what is administered by Ministry of Foreign Affairs constantly is raising, and there is no more questions when we are going to the government with a new demand for support of Ukraine. Let me put it really frank, no one in Latvian parliament those days can contest that we need to boost support for Ukraine. So be sure it will continue for next years as well. And for this year, almost 1/2 of our development cooperation projects, what means projects proposed to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where both Ukrainian and Latvian parts are involved and which are financed by our money. 1/2 of them are going to activities in Ukraine. It was our priority. For the Ministry of Latvia, for a long time, values already the involvement of higher education institutions in development cooperation projects. Those are one of longest running. For example, the project of Riga Graduate School of Law goes since 2014, so almost 10 years. And during this period, 62 bright Ukrainian participants graduated from the very specific program together with other participants from Moldova, Central Asia, Western Balkans, etc. Similarly, in the University of Latvia, 230 Ukrainians graduated from the program European Studies, Foreign and Domestic Affairs, and for this year we are putting more emphasis on exactly European integration element of those studies to, let's say, booster integration process and to concentrate on more probably some civil servants from different ministries of Ukraine. And I'm very happy to be here in Valmiera and see that not only Central Riga universities are participating, and Valmiera, you are not the only one. Rezek and the Academy of Technologies also provides support for educators and students in Ukraine. And you mentioned all online platforms, Latvian Uzdevumi LV, who started in Latvia during COVID times, very successfully, let's say, transferred the knowledge to Ukrainian education system as well, so something very, very good. And yeah, and this year, as I mentioned, we are continuing on health sector, SMEs, sustainable agriculture, women's rights, and as well university programs for EU integration. On reconstruction, Ambassador, you know, we are in a constant contact from the first day you arrived in Riga on how to better and more structurally provide reconstruction assistance to Ukraine. We concentrated our efforts to Chernihiv region because we had a long time contacts and very good cooperation with this region, and as well we cannot go for whole Ukraine. We are a small country. We want to have something very targeted where real people feels and will feel the results of our assistance. So very good to have you here. Probably after the session we can chat a bit on possibilities for future cooperation, because we are willing and planning to work together with Ukrainians on Ukrainian ground. And organizations, NGOs, youth organizations, I think could be a very good partners for those activities. And our target areas for this period will be social infrastructure, mainly kindergartens, probably some schools, because without that, people cannot work, people cannot continue economic activities, and this is the basis for functioning of society. And as well, we will continue our support for women, victims of war, women in difficult situations. So this is something Latvia has a long time experience already, and we are working together with Ukrainian side as well on that in other regions, but we are going to Chernihiv as well. And you mentioned disinformation and propaganda. I think that it's not only your problem, it's a problem of all of us, including here in Latvia. So we need to become more strong on that, and our resilience of our societies should be boosted to, let's say, just make difference what is truth and what is not. So I think that we can, it's something we can work together, and you mentioned your IT army, we are having good experts in our side as well, so this is something that we can try to find out common projects. I will stop here, but we can continue, of course.
Yeah, thank you. So probably rebuilding infrastructure will be one of the priorities, right? But universities are the ones who are rebuilding, let's say, mental infrastructure of the country. How do you see what would be the priorities of your universities here if you would be able to make a wish list to our Latvian government? Where would you see the first investments should be made in your universities? Anyone can, or Mr. Ambassador, you also.
I would prefer to university to start with.
Yeah.
I can start. So, of course, there can be a long list, but as to my university, I would probably put on the first place the science support. We are facing a situation that many of our researchers, in order to have a sustainable development of their projects, had to leave the country, and now they are like working online for our universities, but they are staying abroad. And of course, as it has been mentioned, the financing is mostly directed to more serious problems, to the help of the army, and science is lacking financing, and that's why I think that our researchers could cooperate with some European colleagues in order to apply for some EU funds and other grants, just not to stop their work, because they have done a lot and they are achieving some good progress in their work, and that would be very important. And what is also like problematic that in terms of mobilities, as it was already mentioned, even such short stays as we are having now, they are very important because they are, you know, like it's like given a fresh breath. And though I think that my colleagues as well, we are constantly checking our air alerts maps because we are worrying about our families, but here we stay safe. You know, and even this week, it gives you like energy. And in terms of these kinds of mobility, we know that now we are facing a kind of gender inequality because male students are not allowed to go abroad, and only female students can take part in various Erasmus Plus activities, for example. That's why, as regards to this question, I think that some virtual schools might be of help to ensure the participation of our male students.
Fantastic.
I will agree with my colleagues that this support can be provided in two perspectives, one for researchers and the second one for students. And I absolutely support my colleague in the idea of providing some kind of virtual studies for our boys, because they lack it so much, and we do try to find possibilities for international projects for boys who cannot leave the country. And you know, for example, if to take information technology, most of them are boys and they stay inside the country. Well, and absolutely agree with the idea of such even short-term visits, short-term students exchanges that are really of great value.
Thank you. Anastasia.
It won't be a surprise when I say that I totally support my colleagues, but I would like also to add that our university was very, very affected and it was damaged during the Russian invasion, and actually there were 3 direct bombs that struck our university, and we are still recovering, and that's why we continue teaching online. We can't go offline, and we do everything to make it possible next semester. We installed new windows. We completely rebuilt the sports hall roof because it was completely destroyed, and we still need some help in reconstruction, definitely. And we also have changed the heating system completely. We changed radiators and so on, but student dormitories are also affected and they still need reconstruction. But apart from that, we understand that there are some social problems that we want to counteract. For example, our faculty of social work works with local communities to fight against gender-based violence and so on, because we understand that everybody is stressed due to the war, and we would like to have support for such projects, and we have experience in it because in 2020 we had the project called Women Voices Count, which was aimed to provide trainings on women leadership qualities and how to be a successful woman, which is really important nowadays because women are really stressed, and not only women but also kids. They can suffer from household violence and so on, and we would like to have support for these projects.
I would like to add a little bit that certified courses are really of great value because students will then have, when war stops, and it for sure will stop, so students will have a chance for their career development. We have a very successful case of partnership with American Broward College and with South Korean Research Laboratory, where students had a chance. Last semester they completed a course in Fundamentals of Effective Communication, which was a certified course from American Broward College, and this semester students of IT department completed the course of Introduction to Deep Learning, which was also certified. They gained new knowledge, they gained new skills, and moreover, they got certificates for their future career and for their future portfolio. So it could also be a very good idea.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for picking up the question of social work and gender violence and these issues. And exactly, reconstruction is not just about buildings, even though we have the first proposal about that. So, Mr. Ambassador, I need to challenge you about that. So, if you would now need to review the proposal to Latvian government, would you still have a take on kindergartens, or you think that universities also can play some role?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for, I cannot disagree actually with all colleagues mentioning the priorities. But first of all, I would like to thank the Latvian government for support for provided, and especially the amount allocated for Chernihiv region. And I do believe that there is some place for future, I mean, for next year when we will see how it will actually be implemented. There are two types of approaches actually in every process, just in simplified version. There is a fast recovery, then it's a long-term recovery. And I do believe that I will use the same approach on choosing priorities. So first of all, what you do as immediate action is a fast recovery. So you need to immediately create an infrastructure or repair something which has been damaged right now immediately to make people come back. So kindergartens are needed for families, including lecturers who are actually in universities. Without that, they cannot just go to students and teach them. So it's not a problem only of students, I would say. Secondly is like an idea of a road. So you have in a school, but if you don't have a road how to get to that school, there's no one will go to that school. So you need to spend time on this road. So that's actually why you analyze what is a priority. But talking generally on future, and I would like to give some specific focus on that. First of all, we need to think on what country we would like to see Ukraine after the war. And all efforts which we need to do right now is to think globally and with war forecast. So idea is that, and I fully share the words that we need to spend more time on creating comfort area, I would say, in that way, on the ground for people who would like to stay in the country, to develop it, and as well as to get work in the country, in Ukraine actually. And to that reason, universities, when they see the market, they start to analyze who they would like to teach and what kind of directions of the studies should be there. Because one day those people will come to the market, they will need a job, and they would need to understand why they studied this for a long time. So first of all, to think from that perspective, that some studies should be right now launched in like an online format between universities in Latvia and Ukraine to understand what is needed for tomorrow. This is the first point. Second one, absolutely, I do share the points of getting more soft skills into overall process. It's absolutely correct that there is a global sustainable agenda, and the Ukraine has to comply with it. Recently, we had a date of Istanbul Convention, so still Latvia has to pass this way. Ukraine did it, but it's also linked to gender balance and gender rights. So we also need to push on these things like soft skills and values inside universities, what kind of things students should have before getting graduated. So this is really important, what could be shared already from one of the EU member states, sharing values and understanding how universities should perceive. And last but not least one, I do believe that we have to explore opportunity of being partners where we can apply jointly. So what we discussed with the rector before our event is idea that our universities have some experience on the ground. Latvian universities have an experience of applying to different funds and projects. Why shouldn't we merge our experience and try to get jointly something? This could be really beneficial with a small amount of resources allocated on local level to provide experience how to write these applications and what kind of expertise is needed to apply for a bigger. So that is why my priority would be that the university spends this time in exchanging experience and creating joint projects. I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you. Agnes, getting back to your role of universities in regional development. So Vidzeme University actually is quite new university in Latvia, right? And it has had some very big impact on the development at regional level, right? So what could be some main takeaways? Mr. Ambassador mentioned these values, right, which university can change at local level. But are there any other roles of universities that we could share these Latvian experiences that you have been going through with the University of Vidzeme?
I fully agree with what has been said and about the role of universities and the immediate wishes and needs and everything. And I also want to kind of split this question into parts. So first of all, we must help Ukraine to win in every possible way. And as I already maybe now repeating myself a little bit, is that this public kind of opinion, this overall positioning of society. Also here, this is something that we must do. All the universities in Latvia and all the other European countries, we have to work with the audience that we can reach, not to normalize this not normal situation, so that the war is war. We know how human brain is working, that we rationalize the irrational very quickly because we just need to survive. But that's how we get used to the situation and somehow loses its immediateness and the urgency, and we may not allow this to happen. happen. So this is something I think that universities can do through events like this, bigger events, smaller events, discussions, educational activities, cultural activities as well. In Valmiera here we have these people from Ukraine living still. We have this Ukrainian small municipality union, the head of this association, not union, association, she's residing here. So we have to kind of keep this conversation, cooperation, information exchange alive between us and involve as many people as possible and inform and educate and tell about the whole situation, because this is also indirect but still a push also on the decision makers about the funding allocated to different whatever is needed in every specific situation. And then, of course, we have to think also in the long term, and we have to start preparing. We have to start thinking of what are the expertise areas of each university. You mentioned so much about this cyberspace and so on. We also have developed a cybersecurity study program and also some research around it. We have this virtual reality laboratory, which already has very good experience in developing this virtual reality learning and training spaces. So maybe we can do something also in the directions that you mentioned already. So different possibilities, and of course what Mr. Ambassador mentioned, so that this joint work together to attract funding, because we are always in shortage of money. That's the normal situation for us. So it's always like looking for new opportunities. And here we are also very grateful to the national institutions who find these resources, both for scholarships, both for different mobilities, for different other activities, where also universities are invited to take part, and also this European Commission funding that we can apply for. By the way, I have to mention one initiative which is called this Science for Ukraine, which is actually initiated here in Latvia, so that these grassroots activities also from scientists. I still believe that there is space. It's not just like the first months when the full-scale war broke that everybody was kind of activated. There's still chance and there is still need to initiate new things and see what is the situation now. So how can we help to support people in Ukraine? Maybe quite chaotic, but these are my points. So thank you.
Maybe Alice, you can just add up on some issues from the ministry perspective, more maybe on European integration. Because we are talking about reconstruction, now we have talked also about how we can improve learning process, science and so on, but very important target is European integration, where we need to be very fast. Are there any tools or approaches or programs what ministry is offering, or you know about some opportunities where universities can get involved?
Thank you. Yes, of course, indeed. European integration is a process we can be very helpful, and I think we are already very helpful, and I'm thinking about all civil servants of Latvia. What I'm saying to my colleagues in other old EU member states when we are meeting, look at us, we are the ones who did it for Latvia 20 years ago. And we are still here, still present, still alive, and still ready to share our very concrete public service experience with Ukrainian or with Moldova, for example, as well. We are working with both those countries. So our, let's say, people from civil service are participating in different twinning, TAIEX, other education projects in Ukraine, because what we think from our perspective is that we should go on the ground and work with people, with Ukrainian people on the ground, helping for prepare planning documents, programs, etc., like in our case, Swedes and Danes came to Latvia, so we can go to Ukraine. Of course, it depends on a lot of things, including money, but I can assure you that this EU integration assistance will be here. Paid by European Commission, by ourselves, by other programs. This is something we are really ready to go on to do. Then, if I may pick up something you said, and it was extremely interesting to hear you personally and your experience, and to compare it what we thought back in the ministry when thinking about all the plans and the areas and the avenues where to go. For example, you mentioned those short-term visits. And I will really take good point of that, how important, because you all three mentioned it, how important it is for you, because from our probably not so realistic side, we thought that it takes so long, this road, this trip to come for 1 week. Is it really worth it? But it is. So I'm taking it absolutely back to my colleagues when we will think about different assistance programs, that it is very important for you. Then what else? Virtual schools for male students. Yes, indeed. It's something, I got your point, absolutely. Because yes, we see Ukrainian women around, and it's tragic. It's normal. It's tragic, but there are still young men who cannot leave, who are in Ukraine, but who are probably not fighting this moment, and who are ready to continue, are willing to continue with having some kind of graduation document. So this is not for me. I'm not graduating anyone, but the idea of really not only learning, but having some papers afterwards, it's very, very important. Then what else on joint applications? Yes, indeed, if Latvian universities can help prepare papers for EU grants, you are, yeah, oh, very good, very good. I'm very happy that you are very good on that. Then on what Ambassador said on build back better, if I may figure it as like that, of course, and for that there is a bit of this contradiction between immediate needs and future needs. And for that we probably should, let's say, take a bit of time for planning and for carefully analyzing what exactly to do and which is this building worth to be rebuilt or not. But it's, again, I hope that the visit of Minister of Economy next week to Ukraine, including Chernihiv, together with building experts and building experts who can speak on the one voice with Ukrainian experts, because I can't. And they will on the spot agree on more concrete projects to continue, because we are, as I said, we are ready to go and to continue to rebuild step by step based on Ukrainian side needs. So this Chernihiv University, it's a good moment to address what our embassy and the Ministry of Economy here, to that it's something that we can invest in a, not only, let's say, in walls, but also walls who create knowledge. And last point, if I may, on women and gender violence, I think that this is something we are doing already. One part of state funding for this year already will be dedicated to our NGO Marta, who has 20 years of experience working all around the world on that, and they are already in Ukraine. So I think it will continue. It's something I'm taking again. You are saying it's very important for you. So it ensures me that it's really something we should do, but not only probably fighting this violence, but also empowering women. And for that, I think that in Latvia, you see our panel, not only you are only lady, yeah, gender is totally disbalanced a bit. So, but we do have still, even in Latvia, probably it's not so, from first this need for IT skills boost for girls, for women, and we do have as well very good programs already being supported also by us in other regions, and it can be applied, I think, for Ukraine girls, and combining it with school in Latvia, it will, let's say, cross a lot of boxes probably. So it's something I cannot promise we will do right now, but it's something that I will take good note, and when analyzing next proposals, next ideas, to go for it. Thank you.
This is very productive panel, right? That's why we like our government. It's very decisive. So, but to the last point, we talked about resilience in crisis, about reconstruction, about not just walls, but also people. Transformational roles. We are if we could think about the time when war will end, and we all are totally certain that Ukraine will win, and what would be your takeaway from this experience? What you will not change in a way you work, or what you have learned or heard as a takeaway for Latvia? Because you mentioned very many important topics of constant agility. This 21st century skill, right? Thinking more about students and their mental health, right? It's also very important. I know University of Vidzeme is thinking about that more. So one takeaway from each of you, what you will continue to do and what you have learned or what you have heard, what we can, as Latvia, learn from Ukraine, which is not less important also. So anyone can start who has an idea. Oh, sure.
Okay. Actually, we do believe that the war will stop, and we do hope that there will be no need in implementing all those roles that our universities are performing now in our everyday life. But what I would like to leave is, for example, the creation of this psychological center at our university, because even in peaceful time, it can concentrate on some other issues. Now they are working mainly with those like soldiers who came back from the war. They are working with psychological trauma and in internally displaced people, but in peaceful times they can work on some problems connected with addiction or teenagers' problems, and they have got some good experience in these. And what I would also leave are those changes that we have introduced into our curricula, because with the beginning of the war we have introduced some new or enlarged existing disciplines that we consider to be very important for our future students. These are the disciplines connected with developing such skills as giving first medical aid or giving psychological support or how to survive in some dangerous conditions. And I think that having such neighbor as Russia, unfortunately, we need to be ready. And that's why I would definitely leave these disciplines for our students to develop these skills.
Okay. I would rather take three small things, rather than one big thing. So first of all, we faced the situation that 100 students from our Cherkasy State Business College were taken abroad by their parents, fleeing from war. And what one thing I would leave is the strong implementation of hybrid learning. So I suppose that we will continue doing that because COVID-19 started it, and so we were forced to continue it. The second idea, probably it could even be the first one, is the strong international shoulder of our European and not only European partners. It is great to continue this beneficial, because I do think that not only we benefit from it, but you also have strong benefits from what you can learn from our experience. And the third one is volunteering activities, because students illustrated their strong desire to help those in need and to help each other.
Yeah, I totally agree that we'll stick to this hybrid format, and we think of having lectures online and having practical classes offline during the next semester. And I believe this is a very efficient scheme how universities can work. And of course, we'll continue cooperation with all the NGOs and with our international partners. But when the war finishes, so we'll do it in another way, but definitely we'll find ways of cooperation. And of course, it is volunteering, and of course, it's courses in first aid and how to react in emergency situations. And we would continue to support our lecturers in terms of providing trainings on emotional burnout and so on, because the war is not the only stressful situation that a lecturer can face, but there are more other situations, and of course psychological support for students and for local community. Thank you.
Well, quite difficult question on takeaways since the war is still ongoing. Probably I will share my thoughts on takeaways generally. Ukraine before the war has been on a tough path to become a member of European Union, including the points of education area. So how generally education system should change, and the university should adapt to realities. And one of the biggest takeaways, which applies to different sectors, but mainly to education, which is underfinanced, I would say, it was and still is, and during the wartime has less possibilities to be financed, is that we finally understood that the responsibility for different areas is on your own. So you cannot lose time of neither lecturers, neither of students, and you need to choose to teach things and learn things which are really helpful for future. So I guess this is one of the best ever outcomes which we currently as Ukrainians are learning from the first day of war, understanding what is really important. And education is one of them. So even students start to understand how important education is for them. To survive, to win, and as well to live then. Thank you.
Agnes or Alisa?
Yeah, many things have already been said. Maybe from my side, of course, what we will continue doing is look for new funding possibilities, so we can work with Ukrainian partners as Erasmus under Erasmus Plus program, and we are waiting eagerly for this. For results of the next period, European University Alliance funds, and we will know in July. And we have 3 Ukrainian universities included there as associated partners, and of course we will work with you as associated partners. And I will be very much looking forward to the moment where you will be accepted to European Union, and we will have you as like full members and partners in the alliance. So that's
if I may, very shortly, probably from not of my position as a representative of a bit of government, not a government, a civil service, but the person mainly. My takeaway now in the middle of the war still, but is don't underestimate anything. Don't underestimate your neighbor. Don't underestimate your force. And don't underestimate, let's say, how tremendously can change the world around us, both in a worst imagined scenario, but to the best as well. I think this tremendous change of perception of things, of history, of real role of Russia, what is happening is still happening, and I am really surprised. Still, I'm surprised how deeply these changes are going. I'm not thinking about us, Latvian society, but mainly about Western Europe. Really, those people finally have their eyes open. That's one takeaway. Another is, of course, more pragmatic, to the ground. Of course, this hybrid learning was something we hated a lot during COVID time. But I think that there can still be situations it's very useful. For example, when people are in different countries, when people are in different positions, when you cannot connect physically, come together for different reasons. So it's something can be continued, but probably not form the basis of education as such. And of course, being a mother myself, I do hope very much that quality education, of course, psychological support for students during learning, but as well additional skills and new knowledges and new courses probably will come into curriculum, not only to Ukrainian students, but also to us, how to protect yourself, how to be more media literacy, etc., etc. I think we need it, all of us, all students, all programs, curriculums need it here and there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for so many good thoughts, I would say. And as you said about this shoulder, and I think you have our shoulder. We are it's for sure. And thank you for your being present here, to three of you, and also colleagues from the ministry and university welcoming all of us, and Mr. Ambassador for your time. So thank you, and we really hope for more projects in the future together, maybe even starting from today. And thank you to everybody in audience and behind the screen. Thank you.